Here at BP, we're proud to have helped fuel progress for more than a century. But now we need to look to the future with fresh eyes. Because over the coming years, billions of people will lift themselves out of poverty, making the demand for energy and the demands on our planet even greater than ever. This is the dual challenge, one of the greatest issues of our time. We all need to play our part. You, me, everyone. It won't be easy. True progress seldom is. But with our scale and know-how, we truly believe that if we can keep doing the right thing, they can keep thriving. If we can keep working as a team, they can keep playing as one. If we can keep creating opportunities, they can keep taking them. If we can keep achieving our ambitions, they can keep achieving theirs. If we can keep innovating, they can keep triumphing. If we can keep hiring incredible people, they can keep doing incredible things. If we can keep seeing possibilities everywhere, then we can keep expanding and nurturing our world-class team and overcome any challenges the energy landscape presents. We are all capable of crafting incredible careers whilst genuinely contributing to work that has meaningful impact for millions. We believe that if we each play our part, as we grow and achieve our ambitions, we will all keep advancing.
And hello, Grad Stars. Welcome to yet another one of our Grad Star webinars. I see from the chat crowd quite a few familiar names, usual crowd popping along. Well done for taking opportunities. As you all know by now, I'm Laura Barker. I'm the MD of BlackBark Productions and the founder of the Grad Star program. So once again, thank you for joining us here, for giving us your time. We are hosting today the Building a Career within bpSA webinar. Over the past 5 years, GradStar has recognised and assisted with the employment of thousands of students, just like you guys out there. And we're here today with one of our top employers to provide this forum for you to take the opportunity, for you to find out about your futures. As many of you are aware, BP is an important partner to both of our programs, to the Grad Star program and the Rising Star program. And BP are also a major employer of all of you Grad Star students out there. So make sure today you stand up and are noticed. Obviously, we all know the world's a funny place right now, and certainly not a fun place to be as a student. No academic years, no campus, no social, no graduations, all that hard work you've put in over the years, no certainty. Well, we're here to tell you today that it's going to be okay. We believe in you. The employers are still here and they're still waiting for you. As the video said, this will go on and we will overcome these challenges. Today, BP Careers have landed one of their top achievers, Dineo Teffo. She's the Supply Operations Manager. She's been that since 2014. She oversees a team of 24. She works across Maputo, Rosebank, and Cape Town. And many of her team are actually graduates, so there's no better person to speak to. She employs you guys, and she leads you guys, and she manages you guys. She's joined us today to share with you a little about how she built a career, both prior to BP and then within BP. And also what kind of expectations and offerings bpSA has of graduate hires, so you have a little more understanding about where you might fit in. Hi, Dineo. So also, just the last thing I want to point out before I pass over to Dineo is that, as you've probably seen from the invite, BP Careers are also offering a 1-hour session with one lucky participant. So whoever stands out from the chat log, whoever really gets noticed, you're gonna get a 1-hour session with BP Careers. Now, if that's not an interview, I don't know what is. And this isn't an opportunity that comes along every day. So please make sure you take your opportunities. But you guys all know how this works by now. I can see so many names here. I think also, Dineo, it's important to mention that she is the diversity and inclusion champion for BP across Southern Africa. Now, this is clearly an important role, but it's a great example of what employers are looking for, and what you can do to make yourself stand out. Don't just perform your role. Take opportunities to make a difference. Take opportunities to shine. And I know Dineo, over her career, has demonstrated a passion about young talent as well, and seeing them grow in the businesses they find themselves in. And finally watching them and assisting them in becoming fully fledged professionals and leaders in their own right. And that's why she's here today. She's here to help you guys. She's here because she's passionate about young people and passionate about the talents out there. So now I am going to pass over to Dineo, because she is the main excitement of today. And Dineo, if you could just tell us a little bit about your background, about your career journey, and about bpSA, that would be amazing. You were here, Dineo. We've lost you on video, Dineo. Dineo, can you hear us? Look at that, everybody. She was right here until her moment to speak. Maybe it's nerves. If you'll just give us a couple of seconds, we'll try and get her back online. Guys, take this opportunity. I'm reading the chat right in front of me. Take this opportunity to let me know who you are, let me know what you're doing, and also make some comments that might allow you to win that interview with BP. I'm reading them as they go along. Malangisi, thank you very much, saying GradStar has opened my eyes so much and my mind has gained so much wisdom from these webinars. Thank you very much for giving us the time to attend. We couldn't do it without you guys. But Dineo was here just now. We did a run through, we did practice. I'm sure she'll come back on any second if you'll just allow us to sort out our technical issues. Dineo.
Yes, I'm back. My laptop, just as you were speaking, my laptop went off.
Shame, sorry. I was also like, and welcome to Dineo. And then it goes back.
I apologize, everybody. I didn't hear half of what you said, but I could see that you were talking. So,
well, I just said thank you for joining us. I've mentioned how you are the champion for diversity and inclusion across Southern Africa, which is an important role, as well as the supply operations manager role that you play.
yeah.
And we'd just love it. I see there is 246 people in the audience. So we'd love it if you could tell us a little bit about your background, about your career, and especially about your journey within BP.
Okay, great. Thank you for the introduction, Laura. And I apologize, everybody, for kind of disappearing on you for a while there. But yeah, technology, I'm learning to embrace it. So I will confess that I'm feeling a little bit lonely just sitting here. I would ideally have been standing in front of you, talking face to face. But I understand the challenges that we have, and also the opportunity that this presents. A lot more people can attend than perhaps would have been able to otherwise. So we'll roll with it. Okay, a little bit about me. I like starting, sharing my story about where I come from, a little bit something personal about me, just so you can understand some of the things that drive my values and some of the decisions that I've made in my career so far. So if you'll allow me to just go back to when I was small, where I'm from, and then we'll end with my career in BP. So, as Laura mentioned, my name is Dineo Teffo. I'm 43 years old, and I'm the youngest of 3 siblings. I've got an older brother and an older sister. I was born in a little village in Limpopo. Yay for all the people from Limpopo. And I went to school there in Polokwane until I finished matric, or call it grade 12 now, at the age of 15. So yeah, I was still very young when I finished school. My parents and my family were in no way well off when I was growing up, but they did the best that they could to send us to the best schools that they could afford, to create opportunities that they didn't have when they were growing up. And to this day, I think I live by some of the values that they've instilled in me, which include hard work, valuing education. So, I don't know if you guys went through the same thing, but when I was small and we're in school, we always competed to see who was first in class, and you're either number 1, number 2, and if you were anything lower than number 3, you were in trouble. But that was largely pressures that I put on myself, not necessarily what my parents put on me, but they instilled the value of me valuing education, and it served me very well until now. So, yeah, as I said, I went to school in Polokwane in that small village until I was about 15. And then when I went for an interview for a scholarship to go to UCT to go study chemical engineering, I got offered an opportunity to go study IB, or International Baccalaureate, at a school in Swaziland, Waterford Kamhlaba. At the age of 15 in matric, I was probably younger, about 2 or 3 years younger than most of my classmates. And I thought, a detour wouldn't hurt, especially since I was told that that scholarship to go to UCT would still be available to me after I finished studying at Waterford. So I took that opportunity. And to this day, I'm glad that I did that, because I got to meet some of the most successful and influential people in the world today. And funny enough, with all the experience that I have, studying at UCT and then working at BP in my career, some of the opportunities that I get because I went to that school and because of the people that I met, and I managed to network with, and not necessarily because of my qualifications or who I get to work with. So earlier, Laura was talking about taking opportunities and looking to network. Grab those whenever they're presented to you, because you never know how what you will need or how they will serve you in future. So just going back to my story, after Waterford, I then took up that scholarship again. I went to go study chemical engineering at UCT. I will share with you that I took the scenic route to complete that degree. It's normally a 4-year degree, but I did it in 5. I failed my 3rd year. And I want to highlight that because I think that was the first time that I remember where I learned a lot about myself. I was not used to failing. I got through school, like I said, finished matric when I was 15, and I went to a really good school and I was getting good grades. I got my good grades in 1st year and 2nd year, but 3rd year showed me serious flames. And I learned a lot. To this day, some of the lessons that I remember, life lessons that I learned, are from that year. So I will proudly share with anybody, not the fact that I failed, but the fact that I learned from me having failed. So, and I mentioned that just so you don't, to encourage you to not beat yourself up when, in your career or in your life, you get to a point where things don't go the way that you planned. Look for opportunities to grow, even when things aren't going as well as you thought they would. So I finished my 4-year degree in 5 years. I left UCT and I went to work as a process engineer in Cape Town in a company that's now closed down. Used to be called Nylon Spinners or Sense Fibers, and I worked as a process engineer for 4 years. I think in the 4th year, it was clear that the company was in trouble and was about to shut down. And fortunately for me, an opportunity came up in BP where they were looking for somebody with my background, an engineer, somebody that could interface with the refinery, while looking at the commercial aspect of the business. So I applied for a job as a production planner, which was available at the time, and I got accepted. It was weird because one of the companies that I wanted to work for while I was still at uni was BP. I liked the whole notion of being in the oil industry, working at a refinery and all of that. I didn't get to work at a refinery, but I still interfaced with the refinery, and I ended up in BP. I think it was probably one of the best moves I could have ever done for my career, because that was in 2004, 17 years ago, and I'm still here. I've had a very fulfilling career with BP since that day. The first 4 years, I did roles around production planning, production scheduling. I was an asset economist, but it was all based in Cape Town, and the refinery that we own is in Durban. So I didn't actually get to be based in the refinery, but I was still interfacing with the refinery. And then after 4 years, one of my highlights in my career, I got seconded to London as an expat on assignment to go do a role. My title was crude supply coordinator, and essentially in that role, I used to source crude oil for processing in our refinery in Durban, and then I also got an opportunity to do the same for our refinery. I did that role for about 4 years. Again, I managed to network with senior people in BP globally, not just people that look after South Africa. And some of my mentors to this day are people that I met while I was doing that role in London. And then at the end of 2011, I returned to South Africa into a role. My title then was product negotiator. It was essentially a role that made sure that all our customers in the country have sufficient product. And by product, I mean things like diesel, jet fuel, petrol, lubricants, all of that, even the black stuff that the ships use, the bitumen that gets used to make roads. So my role as a product negotiator was to make sure that we've got sufficient product. And if our refinery in Durban produced too much, then we're able to sell it out so that we don't constrain the operation of the refinery. I did that role for about 3 years. I got then to interface with a lot of people in the industry. So our competitors, Shell, Sasol, Total, Engine, I got to network a lot with them and understand a lot more about the industry in that role. I did that role for about 3 years, as I said, and in July 2014, I got promoted into this role, supply operations manager. Until I got into this role, I didn't have anybody that reported to me. So essentially, my sphere of influence went as far, it was in a team setting. So I didn't have anybody reporting directly to me. But in my current team, there are about 24 of us, including me. And as Laura mentioned, I've got a team that's based in Mozambique, a team that's based in Cape Town, and most of the team is based in Joburg, and I'm also based in Joburg and Rosebank. I've been doing the role for about 6 years, and I have learned a lot about the business. I know a little bit about the supply chain as a result of having been with BP for about 17 years, from crude sourcing to all the way to what the customer may need. And in my role, I have most of the people in my team are essentially people that are just starting out in their careers. So what we call like entry-level employees, so about level I. And as a result, then people stay for about 2 or 3 years and then move on to another role. And because of that, I have interfaced with a lot of people in your shoes. I've gone to a number of career sessions where I talk to people in your shoes that are looking to either start employment or are already working and are just looking for a little bit of guidance. So like I say, because of that, I know a little bit about what you guys are trying, where you guys are moving to. That's my current role in BP. And like I say, I've worked with a number of graduates. So Laura, I I think that we can stop there as regards my career. And I don't know if there's any questions before we go into the bit about what to look out for if you're starting out, or when you are a graduate in BP, or in another company. I've been talking a lot. Have I scared her off? Hi, Laura.
I'm right here. I'm absolutely right here. I was just reconnecting quickly also.
Cool.
Sorry, fall back on it. Have you been looking at the chat, Dineo? It's been going absolutely crazy busy.
I get so distracted. I press the wrong button, but I'm back. I can see the chat.
Yes, these people love you. These people love you. At the beginning, there was quite a lot of compassion and understanding about failing your third year, and a lot of questions around that. They want to know about resilience, and do you have any tips for how to handle that kind of situation? And how did you personally recoup after failing that third year? What did you draw upon?
It was very, very hard. I will not lie. And a lot of the pressure, I think, and the disappointment that I experienced was me being disappointed in me. Fortunately, I had a very supportive family. So my dad and my mom didn't wag their fingers at me, what were you doing? Because they knew what what kind of person they'd brought me up to be. And secondly, I think a lot of what grounds me is my faith. I will share that I'm a Christian, and a lot of the values that I share in my personal life are a lot of what I try to instill in my career and in my relationships with people. So I drew a lot of my strength from that. But like I say, it took, it wasn't easy, but I think I soon learned that if I take opportunities that were presented to me, as opposed to lamenting what might have been, I could, I would go further. And fortunately, I wasn't tossed to the side because I'd failed. I was still presented with those opportunities because of, like I said, the relationships that I had formed previously.
I think it's about focusing on the positive. I mean, when things do happen, but it's about your mental outlook, and it's about your attitude. And do you want to let this bring you down, or do you want to stand up and keep fighting?
Exactly.
There's a few questions related to this just coming up. Like, how do you personally manage stress? And how would you handle? I think it's a similar question, but have you had failure in the workplace, and how would you handle that?
Okay, I'm gonna make myself very vulnerable, and I don't know any other way than to be honest.
That's the best way,
yeah. So just the first part about managing stress. A lot of companies will talk about work-life balance and trying to do stuff, but a lot of that falls on me as an individual, and it'll fall on you. You have to put those boundaries in place. You have to find stuff that keeps you alive, and you have to find stuff that you are not willing to, to let work encroach into. So at the moment, what I do, I outside of work, I dance, not for competition or anything, but I do it because it keeps me sane mentally. I dance salsa. So while I could go out, so socially. So while I could go out, I'd made sure that I danced at least 2-3 days a week. In addition to that, I box. I've got a trainer that I work out with over the weekend, not now, obviously, but I found a way to try and keep, that kind of going, even at home. And it got to a point where I even had to schedule time in my calendar to say, you will not set up a meeting at this time because I am going to be boxing, or I'm going to be working out and running. And I will tell people in my team if I needed to at the time, don't set up a meeting around 1:00. I'm not going to pretend there's another important reason other than I'm going to run, because you need me to be sane.
I'm exactly the same, Dineo. I've also I was running, but I've taken up running pretty much daily during lockdown for the past 3 or 4 months, and I can't not do it now. I feel like it clears my head. I don't feel like I'm going to the day properly without it. Yeah, and also you're not alone. I was interviewing the CEO of DHL Express, and he said that people can tell when he hasn't exercised for a while because he gets grumpy, and his PA comes to him and says, "I'm going to clear this diary for you now, and you will go and exercise."
Yeah, no, I bite. I will share with you. I bite. And just in terms of my failures at work, a lot, I will share, not proudly, but just because it is what it is. I am a control freak. I like knowing details. And a lot of, from my story, you would have heard that I actually worked at least 3-4 years in every role that I did. And then I made sure that I understood the detail. And I knew when I left that role, I knew I'd done my best. And, maybe I'd probably done as much as I could in that role, and I understood it. So if anybody asks me anything about any of the roles that I've done, I'll be able to have a conversation with them. So in terms of work, I make sure that I get the details. But because of the kind of environment that I worked in, where it was mostly individual contribution, I didn't always have the whole being nice to people, worked out. So I can't think of a better way to put it. Especially if you're a manager, it's very important. So I say things as I see them, and I don't necessarily see people. So when there's an issue to address, I will look at fixing that issue, normally without actually recognizing that there's a person behind it. And it took me almost kind of breaking a couple of people to learn that, that is not a way to live. That is not, because I wouldn't, I probably wouldn't want to be treated that way. So most of my failures were around leading properly like that. But it's something that I'm working on still. I don't know that you can ever get it right, but it's something that I'm still working on. And I ask for a lot of feedback to help me grow.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
There's a question here which you've almost answered, but the question came first. It says, what kind of a leader would you say you are?
Oh, so I wear my heart on my sleeve, and my mouth generally goes off before my brain and everything catches up. But that's not a leadership thing. But I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I like being very transparent and open. I sometimes tend to not be very diplomatic. If there's an issue, I think it's best addressed openly and honestly, and exactly. And then, we can, that way, then I think stuff gets fixed quicker. And if there are problems, if I have a personal problem with somebody, I will go to them and say, what's up? Let's talk. And I prefer the same. So if I hurt somebody, or if I mess up, I prefer somebody come to me and say, you can do better here.
I wasn't good.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm very, like I say, I like attention to detail. So somebody just kind of, not quite getting what they're doing, or, just kind of glossing on the sets. Normally I would struggle with that. So.
On a similar line, there's somebody else wants to know, what inspires you? What makes you get up every morning and keep pushing and keep doing this, keep balancing? What inspires you? And another one just come up now. Who inspired you to become a leader? 2 different questions there.
Okay. The second one, well, I think this is what I do in my personal life. I set targets, and what inspires me is beating those targets. Not targets that somebody set for me, but I set my own standards, which so I'll check what is good, and I'll set my own standards, and I'll always look to beat those. Just like I'm very, very competitive, but a lot of that is with me. So am I better today than I was yesterday? If I go to bed and I can answer that honestly and look myself, and then go to sleep knowing that I've done my best, that for me is what keeps me going. if I feel like I'm kind of stuck in one place and I'm just kind of a hamster and I'm not going anywhere and I'm not improving on what I deem to be important, that kills my spirit. But fortunately, I think there's a lot of opportunities, for example, in BP, that will always create opportunity for that to happen. So in my role, for example, there's financial targets that we set as a team. And there is nothing that excites me more than beating those financial targets with the team and sharing that with them. And giving feedback to the team about how their work has helped how their contribution has helped achieve those goals. That's what gets me going. So
excuse my face, just on everyone. I was just I was just greeted by my 6-year-old child. I was like, no, go. So, and on that very specific note, there's lots of questions for you here, Dineo, about how do you balance work and family and exercise? How do you manage that balance?
Well, I can't say that I've got it. I've got it sorted. So I'll share with you that. I mean, I used to spend a lot of time at work, and it was unhealthy at the beginning. And because of that, I'll be open and share with you that I'm still single. I'm 43. I don't have any kids. I'm not married. And perhaps, I don't know, perhaps some of that is because I dedicated so much time being at work. But, I am comfortable with where I am. So now what I look to get balance on is my mental health, my physical health. And I don't make any, that, like I say, I prioritize. I schedule into my calendar if I have to. So, and my spiritual health, if I need to connect at church, for my sanity, I dance, like I said, and I work out. That's how I try to achieve balance. So I understand it may be a little bit different to somebody who's got a family at home. I don't have that at the moment, and I'm sure if I were to have that or to be married, I would probably need to learn a few things which I haven't learned yet. So.
Every day can teach us something new. I'm quite interested today because I'm sure quite a few of the students have had to also manage perhaps lockdown living in a more solitary situation, maybe alone, or they're not yet married, but they may have moved out of home already. They've lost the social connections from varsity and campus. Is there any advice that carried you through that you could give to them in these uncertain times?
So I will honestly share with you that I struggled as well at some point. So one of the things, I will also share this bit with you. I've got a history of struggling with depression. Okay. And part of my healing and my working through some of that is making sure that I stay active and finding things that keeps me, that give me joy. So during this time, I'm fortunate enough to have been able to set up, I couldn't leave the house obviously or exercise and take risks, but I've set up a gym at home and I can do stuff that I need to, and I dance alone at home. I've made sure that I stay connected with people. Every single day. I do have a boyfriend. I'm not married. I do have a boyfriend, but unfortunately he's out of the country. So every single day I connect with my brother, my sister and my dad and my boyfriend to make sure that I at least have, can stay sane. Even if it's like a short WhatsApp video call or somebody that I'm staying alone here. So
you have to reach out.
Exactly. I have to reach out, but I realize that everybody is struggling with their own well-being. And people that I would expect to normally reach out and make sure that I'm okay. I needed to make sure that I was okay, and then that they're okay, and not take anything personal if friends don't phone me suddenly or whatever, because everybody's just trying to get through the day. So for me, I have made sure that I connect with my family, even via phone, and or video calls. And fortunately, I still get to do work calls, so we do video calls sometimes. And I have found, I shared a little bit about how I suffered with depression earlier in my life, but there's I got onto this personal challenge to kind of help promote mental health in this thing. So, and that kept me a bit busy. And I found that even as I shared some of my journey and shared some of, some experiences to raise awareness in this time, it's helped me stay sane.
Absolutely. I think if there's one thing this pandemic has done is possibly make us more compassionate and tolerant of other people's experiences and other people's, even our big leaders, even the big leaders. We maybe we all had them on a pedestal before, from manager to going all the way up the chain. But now I think we all realize that everybody has had to deal with this in their own way, and everyone's actually a person. Everyone has. I'm not entirely sure, certainly for me, that we all realized that about our colleagues before. And now I think we've added that extra dimension to our relationships with them, such as my child walking in right now.
I love those times, when family members, especially kids, come into video calls. I take like a minute or two to say hello, because reality is we're in their space, right? This is not, it's not work, it's their space. So we're invading their personal space.
Shame. But on that, there's some very difficult questions here. Let's look at the female aspect. Have you did you always want to work for BP or this kind of industry? And have you found it challenging to work within a male-dominated industry?
I think I'm expected to say yes, I have found it challenging. But truth is, me personally, I haven't. And I think that it goes to, like I said, one of the things that my parents brought me up to believe in is that I can do whatever I want. And they let me explore and let me be curious. So I don't have a problem with challenging anybody or anything. Yeah, even as short as I am, I'm about 1.5 meters tall. So as short as I am, and my voice is a lot taller than my stature. So, and because of that, I haven't really struggled. And a lot of it, I think, has got to do with confidence. You'll be surprised how much what's vuma? That's a word. I can't think of a good English word. What confidence can do to you. So when like if somebody comes and asks me stuff about supply ops, I know that because I've done it. So just, knowing what you're talking about already, that gives you confidence. And it doesn't matter whether it's a guy that comes to you or a lady, you know what you're talking about, or if you believe in what you're saying. Exactly. So for me, fortunately, I haven't. I mean, like before BP, I used to work on a plant. There was a little bit of that because most of the people there on the plant, short girl, and I'll share this, a short black girl coming with and telling people to do, grown men on the plant, what to do. It's not, it's not something that normally, people are comfortable with.
No, it doesn't always go down too well.
No. And I mean, I used to get told, I've got daughters that are younger than you. Who do you think you are? And I'm like, you're a boss kind of thing.
You were just like, this is who I am and this is what I'm doing.
Yeah. And a lot of that, I think, it's got to do with what my parents instilled in me. They never let me feel like, I'm the youngest, I'm a girl, but my dad never made me feel like that, So I recognize that for me, that probably gives me a lot of privilege because a lot of women don't necessarily have what I have, and have struggled. But I don't know how to make it up and say that I have struggled. This is my experience, and I'm gonna be honest.
But it comes back to that element of confidence. It just comes back to knowing that you've done the groundwork, to knowing that you deserve to be where you are. I think the imposter syndrome affects so many people. But if you believe that you've done the work to get to where you are, then you can walk in with a level of confidence and hold that role, even with people much older, who believe maybe they should be holding your role.
Exactly. Oh no, yeah. I'm sure there's people that do, but for me, Yeah, like I say, I never saw that, and I never gave it an opportunity. So
Maybe it's just as simple as just not acknowledging it. Just this is where we are. And lots of people want to know what is the best thing about working for BP.
I think for me, there isn't one thing. You probably have not met very many people that have worked for a company for as long as I have, that are not, almost retired, because I've been with BP for 17 years. And a lot of it is because of the opportunities that I have been given. Well, I kind of worked for them, but they were presented to me when I joined them. Like I said, I got sent overseas and I got given roles. So with what I like about BP, if there are opportunities coming your way and you seize them, you will get supported. And at the moment, there's a drive to change the culture, to for people to speak up and not be afraid. Doesn't matter who you're speaking to. When things aren't going right, or if you see things that need to be challenged and changed, whatever level you're at, whether you're a grad, just joined BP in first day or about to retire, you can challenge anybody at any level, and you are protected. So,
wow.
Yeah, and that's one thing
everywhere.
So that is one of the reasons, like I say, I recognize, I was made aware that I was a bit fraud as a leader somewhere, People spoke up, and I'm glad they did, because, I got to grow as a person, and my relationship with my team has improved because of that. So
but you were open enough to take that and learn from it as well. I mean, and that's something
exactly.
You are as a person. There are instances where other leaders may have had that kind of feedback and not listen to it. And so I think listening to it is critical and learning from it.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I think it's been the opportunities that I got given. And also, I think the culture of BP, the values of BP resonate with mine. So it's an easier place for me to assimilate. I don't feel like I have to be two different people at work or at home. So, I value kindness at home, and at work, the value of respect and, working together in one team resonate with those kind of values in me. So
your culture fit is there, both.
Exactly.
So you can be your authentic self, whether you're at home or whether you're in the office, because you can actually be you. You're not hiding behind or trying to fit into a box that you don't fit into.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. There are there's so many questions. I'm going to send this chat log to you after. You're not even. They're going so quickly, I can hardly read them.
I can see. I can't catch up either.
I'm trying to pull these off, and they just disappear on me. How would you describe the work culture of BP? I mean, what are some of the strong values?
So we've got values that essentially get taught to everybody. The value of safety is one of our main things. Obviously, we work with trucks and hazardous material and all of that stuff. So making sure that everybody that leaves home goes back home safe and healthy is one of our values. We've got the value of courage, as I mentioned. So where it is everybody, like I said, you can speak up about anything that you don't see going the way that we say it should be going. And even if you are maybe a little scared to report things on, like, face to face, there are channels that are created that you can do so anonymously, or even via like different people, and it is made known that you are protected, even if you were to do it like that, face to face. The value of one team, where it's recognized that even though as individuals we may be good at what we do, we are better as a collective, and working together we can achieve so much more. We got the value of respect, and that talks again to treating people the way you would like to be treated, and recognizing that everybody's got a value of they've got value to bring. It doesn't matter, even if it's different beliefs to what you have. Yeah,
I think it's important that a company who says these values really has them embedded in the culture. And from what you're saying, this really is a BP culture. I mean, the chat here is like, oh, everybody here now wants to work for BP, so I guess the job is done. I just want to refer back to one thing you mentioned when you were talking about team and team is one. Have you experienced any concerns or problems moving to the remote working and remote management in particularly?
Me personally, no. And I'll tell you, the one thing that I struggle with is, I mean, I like, so let's say there's an issue going on and, you know, like with all the changes happen, you know, dealing with changes in demand, for example, or requirements for product, you can quickly get into a room and then, you know, talk. Now, when you're all working remotely, you can't do that. You have to kind of create a meeting room, you know, meeting or dial each person individual. So that's been the most difficult about it. Fortunately for BP, we've got an agile working policy. So people didn't have to be in the office every single day from 9 to 5. Let's say you were unwell or somebody in your family was unwell, or, I mean, I had a leak the other day, needed to get a plumber to come in. I could work from home. Just let the boss know I'm working from home. So we've got an agile working policy that you can have documented where you work, let's say a certain number of days in a week at home, or you work different hours, or you job share with somebody, kind of thing. The job sharing one is not as common in South Africa, but working different hours to what's in the contract, or working from home to enable you to either go to see your kids play, or look after somebody who's unwell at home, or even yourself, if you're not feeling well, you sleep in the morning and you get up late at work. That for me has been fantastic. So moving to virtual working, it just encouraged that a little bit more. And it was easier because we already had those policies in place.
Absolutely. You already had the dynamic in place, and you already had people who were used to working in that manner. And to a certain extent, something I think which this whole pandemic has brought to attention as well, is you already had the focus on output rather than clocked hours.
Exactly.
If you weren't well and you want to take an extra hour in the morning, that's fine. If you meet your deadline and if you meet your targets, then you can do that.
Exactly.
I think there's another major shift that's happened over the past 150 some days in South Africa, is people are realizing that tying someone to a desk from 9 till 5 may not be as efficient as moving to a more output-based approach.
Exactly.
So I was just going to say, for you also, having people in Maputo and Cape Town and Joburg, I guess there is always an element of working remotely as well.
Yes. So what I try to do, I have, I've got, like I said, I've got about 24 people in my team, but I've got six of those that I report directly to me. So I make sure that I set up weekly calls with them, at least weekly, and if not, check in daily with them, even before this. So, make sure that we still kind of connected. But once or twice a year, I used to make sure that everybody just got into the same space. So I'd get the team in Cape Town and Maputo to come to Joburg, and we spend 2 or 3 days together, most of the time doing nothing except just be a team and get to know each other outside of work. But now it's a little bit difficult. Sorry?
And learn how to work as a unit and play to each other's strengths and just be, I think that's something we're prevented from doing now, but not forever. But just working out who has what strengths and who can shore somebody up on one side and then work it back the other way. I think that's a key aspect of being in a team.
Exactly.
Somebody here would like to know, what would, as a manager, what would you say were the most important traits of a top performer? Yeah, she wanted this.
No, because I think I realized after I finished, that I hadn't mentioned something, but I'll tell you, this is something that I'm very passionate about, and it's maybe it's because of what I value, but taking ownership of what you do. And I'll tell you why I say that. That comes in so many forms. So when you take ownership of what you do, you take the time to understand what it is, how it impacts everything else, that everybody else that you interface with. So, for example, if you come into my team, you can be kept busy from morning to evening with exactly the same thing day in and day out. It's just, very different. But when you fully take ownership of your role, there's a lot of stuff there's a lot of output that happens. Then you get to understand what gets used for that. Because when you understand that, then you can understand how better to do your role. Let's say I'm doing something for you, Laura. If I don't care what you do with what I give you, then I won't know how to serve you better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But if I understand what you do with what I'm doing, I can have a conversation with you to say, I get that I need to do this for you, but how can I improve this? And then you start then you're able to improve those processes. I've been in this role, like I said, for over 6 years, and I have got blind spots. And there are people that have been there almost as long as. So when you come in with fresh eyes that haven't been looking at this for 6 years, and you take ownership of that role, you can then input critically and change whatever needs changing, improve. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be changing especially after this pandemic, to do things differently. And sometimes it will take fresh minds, like
the students out there, like these young people with their new mindset. They're not all like us.
In 43, half your brain cells
I'm 41
already.
I'm 41.
So let me just, I made a note of that. So taking ownership, and I think one of the other things that made the grads that I've seen succeed is curiosity, wanting to learn a lot more about not just doing what they learn more about the business, take opportunities, go find out what opportunities are there, and ask for opportunities. So don't just sit there saying, I'm going to be doing operations to move this train from here to there, and that's it. Hey, fine, but, maybe that train is moving jet fuel to the airport. The customers at the airport, the people that are selling product, can I, what happens to the product once it gets there? And then you'll be surprised how many opportunities, when you start asking questions and, and exploring what opportunities are there. A lot of your career, you will find, is in your hands. So when you get to work, and you don't just do what what's there, but you're curious and you take ownership and you explore, you will do well.
I think it's about, I completely agree with you, but I think it's about making yourself known beyond your team. As you mentioned, if you go to the next part of the supply chain and you find out what happens there, and you speak to that manager, you speak to that team member, maybe when there's a different opportunity, a promotion opportunity, they might go, I remember this really amazing person who was really interested.
Exactly. And that in line with that, make your passions known. So I studied chemical engineering, but what I'm doing now is not chemical engineering. And I've got a grad in one of the grads in my team. She's very clear about what she wants to do and what she's passionate about, and it's not what I employed her to do. But when opportunities like that come up, fortunately, it's still within my team. But when opportunities in that area come up, she's the first one to put her hand up and say, Dineo, I want to do that. And instead of going to get a contractor that I could then, maybe employ in that area, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. This person is here. Let me just stick in there. And then she gets to grow, and then everybody benefits. Make your passions known to as many people as you can.
Awesome. I think that's amazing. I think that's something that I think we're sometimes a bit scared to do. There's putting yourself out there. There's even saying, I don't quite fit. I'm happy, I want to work for you, but I don't quite fit in this role, and I want to do this side and this side. I think that sometimes, often as a young person entering the workplace, or even a slightly older person entering a new workplace, I think it's something we're scared to do for fear of being seen that we're not the right person in the right role. But advice to all of you students, how many have we got? I think advice to all of you out there is just do it. I mean, there is nothing to lose. There's nothing to lose in making your passions known and in becoming known within the organization. Because if you're the first name that comes to somebody's mind, let's hope in a good way, then that only benefit you going forwards.
But I mean, I should also point out, though, for me, it's good to be curious and have, let everybody know what you want to do. But if you're not good at what you're entrusted to do,
Yes.
or are not diligent to do it well, that will also not be a very good thing. You can be curious about 5 different things, but I gave you this thing and you're curious about all that other stuff. You're not doing that. It's a problem. So do what you're asked to do. Yeah, do what you're asked to do well, and then get curious.
Yeah, no, I think there's definitely some personal accountability you have to take here. Like, you actually do have to do your job.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's upon you in your spare time and your extra time to make things happen for you. Yeah. And part of that is doing your own job well.
Exactly.
There's a couple of there's a huge amount of people who want to be part of your team. I think your team's just quadrupled in size by this chat box.
They see the nice part here, Laura. I have to be nice because I'm here. There's other bits that come with working in my team.
Are you saying you're not that nice all the time?
No, I'm not. But yeah.
A couple of advice questions. I think we've covered an awful lot of place here, an awful lot of ground here. We've covered BP values. We've covered how growing as a person within BP and growing as a manager within BP. But if you were to look back to your third year varsity self, like most of the people in this room, is there any advice? What would you tell yourself?
So, okay, with respect to work, I didn't, like I say, I came from a family that wasn't necessarily well off. So I knew I didn't have an option but to go work as soon as I finished. And sometimes it's not the stuff that you want to do at the beginning. Like I say, and I would tell myself that just, go find work and get started. This exploring and being curious and doing later, you do that while you're working. Because like I said, there was no trust fund or anybody to look after me. In fact, I needed to look after my parents when I first started. So, but if you don't find what you think you want to do first, you will be surprised at the opportunities that come when you actually do start doing something. So if you find, like I say, I knew that I wanted to work with BP, but I didn't start with BP. I started somewhere else. I got the experience as a process engineer, which helped me get into BP. But, start somewhere. And maybe my situation back then is a little similar to yours in that there's no guarantees because of what's happened now in the world. So when you get the opportunity, get your foot in there, get started. Try and do what you're entrusted to do well, but get curious. Because the most opportunities to explore that you'll ever get will come when you're a grad. Once you get put in a full-time role, then opportunities start slowly diminishing. But get in there and just get started. Don't try and land in a perfect job.
Do something rather than waiting for the perfect job to come along. Take because everything's a learning experience. Exactly.
And I'll tell you, even if you don't end up where you want to be, after 2 years of doing grad work, even if it's, like I say, if it's not where you want to be, it looks so much better on your CV than I've just been sitting at home waiting for something for 2 years. So if you apply, when you eventually land your perfect role and say, I've been working at BP sweeping and worst case, it's better than I've just been sitting at home waiting.
That's exactly the question I was about to ask you. I was about to say, and surely as a manager, it looks a lot better that you've taken an opportunity when it's been offered rather than sitting at home thinking you're better or thinking the perfect job is around the corner. So you answered the question before I even answered it, before I even asked it. So well done, Dineo.
I mean, the thing is, you don't know what you don't know. You may think that you want to be an engineer. I've got friends that I studied with engineering, but they ended up as investment bankers. And they're passionate about that. I feel like they're traitors, but they're passionate about what they do. I'm an engineer through and through, but my friends, that have ended up in those companies, they've enjoyed what then it's not something that they studied, but then they realize, okay, maybe I can go study because this is my passion. It's not designing reactors or,
Absolutely.
refinery.
And I think we need to be a little bit humble as well and realize that maybe we're not going to start in this perfect management role doing exactly what we've been trained to do. I think we need to appreciate that, just be a bit humble and acknowledge that the world out there is getting a bit tougher. Awesome. I feel like we've been talking for ages, but it's been beautiful.
I'm trying to get it in my neck.
Shame. I'm gonna let you go now because we've hit
No, it's fine, yeah.
One last thing, what a nugget, a piece of advice, just to leave all these students. There's 200 students in the room. Just a piece of advice from Dineo. What would you give them? You've given them lots, to be fair.
Maybe let me do something different, unrelated, because we talked a lot about career and stuff. Personal advice, like I said, you will be surprised at how amazing being debt-free is. So,
wow.
And I'm learning to appreciate that now, especially when nothing is certain. So knowing that, and I wish I had known that when I started my career, because a lot of the decisions I think would have helped me, starting to save from day one, and to enable me to make some of the decisions that I may need to make now when things are uncertain. But please do not try to keep up with the Joneses.
It's not worth it.
They don't give. They don't care about you. So, look after yourself. And I say this because we talked a lot about your career, but being debt-free is amazing. So start early, look after yourself, and yeah.
I agree. If you build some degree of savings right from day one, whether it's 10% or 20%, but just make sure you always put something aside, then you're in a position where you might be able one day to put a deposit on a house, or you might be able to have that car that you really need, instead of so much credit card debt, which I think a lot of people are overwhelmed by and don't know how to get out of. And it's depressing.
Yeah. No, especially now, like with a lot of people, people have lost jobs and people's futures are uncertain. But having like a little bit of a buffer or savings to kind of keep you going while you try and find a job, especially if you've got a family, it's liberating.
It is. Anything can happen. As if anything, 2020 has shown us is that anything can happen. Awesome. Dineo, I've really enjoyed this. Benola says the webinars really lifted them the spirits. I'm telling you now, everybody wants to work for BP. So watch out for those LinkedIn connections. Dineo, thank you so much. I've enjoyed the past hour. I hope you've enjoyed it too. BP.
Thank you very much for having me.
Always. BP, thank you so much for being our sponsor. We couldn't do it without you. But we are really honored to work with a company like BP, who really does hold true to their values. And moving forward, guys, grad stars out there, don't forget our top 100 announcement is happening on Monday. If you are part of the top, if you were the top 500, Monday is the day you will find out if you made it to the top 100 for 2020. You can register for all our webinars. You'll see on the slide here at risingstar.co.za. And on the 20th of August, we're hosting our next Rising Star Female Forum, where we'll be looking at issues specific to females in the workplace, looking at dealing with COVID, looking at leading remotely, some of the issues we've covered here. So have a look, see what we're doing. We'd love to see you on our social media. And again, thank you to some of the names that have seen us through all the Grad Star webinars. So thank you, everybody. And don't forget, we'll be in touch in a few days with the person who's won the 1 hour with BP Careers. Thank you, goodbye, and enjoy your afternoon.